Hello, hello. Welcome to my first draft replay. So this is just a tool where you can load in your mtgo draft logs and then you can see all the cards and all the picks you made. It would be a little bit nicer if you also could always see all the picks you made, but that's the best I could find, so that's what I'm working with. Before this draft, my limited ranking was 1885 and the goal is to get to 1900. So pack one, pick one, and pack one, pick two, I guess, since it's a double masters format. Cards I'm looking at: the black-green leash, we have a couple of Karoo lands here, Orzhov Pontiff, then Coiling Oracle, Monastery Swiftspear, and Seeker of the Way. So maybe for the draft talk through, I think at the beginning I will talk quite a bit, explain my thought process. Once the direction of the draft, the direction of the deck is more locked in, I will go through the picks quite a bit faster. So the black-green leash is a very strong rare. Untouched, it can take over some games by itself, though you need some times for it. And on the other hand, it's just a 2/2, it's very easy to handle, but nonetheless a very strong card and one of the strongest leash for sure. Then the Karoo lands. I like the lands, they're quite strong, but usually I'm not first picking them so often. Then we have Orzhov Pontiff, a card I like quite a bit. In the right decks it can be very strong, but it's not first pickable for me here since it's kinda narrow. It's two colors, so if you pick it up here, there's a very high chance you're not gonna end up playing it. Then we have Coiling Oracle, a very sweet card. It can help you ramp, it can help you draw cards, it leaves behind a small body. All in all, pretty solid card. Then we have Monastery Swiftspear. I think I'm higher on the Swiftspear than most players. For me, this card is very strong. I mean, it's already quite a good aggro 1-drop in Vintage Cube, so no reason for me to think that in this format it would be any weaker. In red-blue, red-white, the Swiftspear for me is an absolutely beast. If you draft a deck with 3/4 Swiftspear, you're already on a very good path. And also in red-black, the card is very solid. Red-green I don't like too much. I think it's quite a weak color combination. That's also why I don't like BTE. Yeah. Then the last card I want to talk about, Seeker of the Way. I think that this card is a little bit of a sleeper. I think it's a very solid 2-drop in red-white and blue-white. If you have ways to pump it, it's just so hard for your opponent to race you, and you can gain a lot of life with this card. So I think usually I would go with Leash and Oracle. Only one downside, it's kinda 3-color, but I think the last 2 drafts I already ended up in Sultai, so that's why I know it's a bit unconventional. I went for the Swiftspear and the Seeker, but I would say that Leash and Oracle would be slightly better option, but as I said, I think these two cards are very strong and you can they are both single colored. You're very flexible in which color pair you're going. So pack 1, pick 3. So remember, because we pick 2 cards in the first pack, now the description here is always one behind. So pack 1, pick 3. It's a very weak pack. I mean, there is basically almost nothing in here. The strongest card happens to be in our color already, so we go ahead and take the rare. Now pack 1, pick 4, already a bit punished for not going the Sultai route. Cataract is a very fun card, it's a very strong card, and if I would have gone with Leash Oracle and then Cryptic Spires, I suppose, I would for sure grab the Cataract. But as it is, with the red aggressive cards, maybe white, I will not pick it up here. I will go for the Eye Blight's Ending here. It's a very good removal spell. And red-black is a very strong color combination. You usually wheel all Fireblade artists if nobody's in this deck. And yeah. So pack 1, pick 5. If we would have gone down the Sultai route, Sultai Soothsayer would be pretty sweet, but as it is, with the red, black, white, like the Mardu colors, I think the strongest one is Call to the Feast, and that's why we go ahead and grab it here. Now we pick 6, we get Blood Artist. This card is just so strong. It's a very clear sign for me that the sacrifice deck is open. Doesn't matter if it's black, white, black, red or Mardu. But I'm very happy to pick that one up. If I would have gone with the Sultai route, then the Altisaur is what I would have been taken. Pick 7, Inquisition of Kozilek. For me in that format is, I usually don't play it in my deck, but I'm happy to have one in the sideboard to bring it in certain matchups. So for me it's a very easy disfigure. So far we had picked up mostly black in the last couple of picks. Despite the first 3 picks. So very easy disfigure. Then next pick, second disfigure, not as important as anymore since we already have one. It's nice to have a second copy. Sometimes you play it, sometimes you have it in your board and can bring it in certain matchups. But for me, it's a clear pick for the Seeker Squire. It's a pretty solid 2-drop, nothing too special, but I'm happy to pick it up here. Now we pick up Spires. I usually want 3-4 Spires if I'm not a 5-color deck. Of course, if I go 4-color, 5-color, I need more Spires and Karulans. Now we wheel the Ors of Pontiff in this deck. Now we're looking at black, white. I think red is off the table almost. So in this deck, the Pontiff is very strong and I'm happy to pick it up, and it's another sign that we are on the right path. Then the next pick, nothing nothing too strong. I think Knightly Valor, I had it from unplayable to it's sometimes playable as a one-off, or at least in the board against certain decks which have trouble to remove creatures with certain toughness. Sometimes I think it's playable, so that's why I pick it up here. Here we cut our colors, and then pick 13, we wheel the Cartel Aristocrat, which I'm quite happy about, solidifying ourselves more in black-white. Skeleton Archer is a very weak card, but on very rare circumstances you can bring it in from the board against decks with a ton of X1s, which are not just Calling Oracles and Rejuvenators, but like actual creatures you're happy to ping off. But it's very rare that you bring it in. One Inquisition, happy for the board. And the last card. So pack 2, it shows here 3 cards because one of the vampires was foil. I just picked one of them, and of course the Lily, but I don't know, that's why it just is marking both. So we have a nice gift here. Lilies, I mean, of course it's strong, but I don't find it broken by any means, that it's just not, you can't handle it. I played a couple of times against it and was always, I think, able to remove it from the board, get some attacks in or whatever. It's solid, but it's not a I win card. And then I also take one of the flyers. It's very nice to get him more damage, to get him some life, and just a strong card. The Cartel Aristocrat, they usually just all wheel, and also Firelight Artist all wheel if nobody else is in that deck, because in the right deck these cards are quite good, but outside of the deck they're just very mediocre. I mean, if you're Esper or whatever, you're not really happy to play that card. Very, very happy to pick up a second Blood Artist. So now just grab a ton of token makers and I think we would be ready to go. Pick 4, Militia Bugler versus Vampiric Rites. I mean, Vampiric Rites, it's quite solid, but it's slow, and your deck needs to be built a bit that way that you leave mana open. But if you're planning on curving out, tapping out, I think it's not necessary. It's against some decks very strong, but against others it's just okay. On the other hand, the Militia Bugler is a card I'm quite high on. If you have a deck where you have tons and tons of hits, or you can chain together a couple of buglers, it's very sweet. It's also nice to have the Vigilance, and I'm happy. For me it's a very clear pickup here. So, Judith versus Unearth. I mean, Judith is just so good in the sacrifice deck, but I almost picked it here, but it was like, I pick it, but I'm quite sure I'm not gonna dip into red anyways, but I just pick it because it's so good, and that doesn't make too much sense. I mean, if we look at red, we had our first 2 picks, we had red, and then we didn't see any good red cards. so I don't think red is open. And then also, we barely haven't wasted any picks. We have a ton of very good playables, which means we don't have to necessarily go into a third color for card quality. We can just pick up here and there some nice black and white cards, and we should have a very solid and very consistent deck. Because we already have 2 Blood Artists, which are very nice targets to bring back with Unearth. Also we have a Ors of Pontiff, where you can do some nasty stuff if you can bring it back for 1 mana. And I really want to have 1 Unearth in my deck, that's why I picked it up here over Judith. Here, basically nothing for us. We already have a Seeker of the Way in white-black. This card is much worse than in white-blue or white-red. So no need to take it here. Bombkin is a playable 2-drop, but as I said, we already have quite a bit of playables, and we have to cut tons of cards like this anyway, so we're not going to pick it up. We rather have at least 4 Cryptic Spires to make sure we never get color screwed. Pick 6, easy Call of the Feast with the 2 Blood Artists we already have. Doom Traveler is also playable in this deck, but since we haven't wasted any picks, cards like this we have to cut in the end anyways, so we go for Call to the Feast. Pretty weak pack here. We just take the Cryptic Spires and move on. Pick 8, or pick 9 rather, since we picked 2 cards in the second pack as well. The Leash not fitting really our black-white deck, because the tokens from Call to the Feast are white and they are not getting pumped. It's hard to cast, and on the other hand there is a Severed Strands, which I like 1 copy. Is very strong with the token makers and quite a good removal spell in this kind of deck. Then, as expected, wheeling some Cartel Aristocrats and other Spires. I think at this point we should be good to go with the Spires. We already have probably 4 or 5 or something. Wheeling the Vampiric Rites, that's nice. This card, I mean, not for our deck now, but I haven't been able to play it yet. I'm not sure if it's somewhat decent. I had it once in a deck, but I never drew it. But I think in the right deck it's for sure playable, but I don't think that it's too good. Grabbing the last couple of cards, and then we go to pack 3. So here we open an absolute garbage pack, like almost nothing for us. I think that's now the 5th Cryptic Spires, but there is really just nothing else. I went for the Last Breath over second Severed Strands, because that one first I thought it's unplayable, but I like to have one in the sideboard against certain decks, against aggro decks where it doesn't matter too much the 4 life you will give to your opponent. I'm happy to bring it in sometimes, although more on the rarer side. Severed Strands is like the first copy is usually in this kind of decks very strong. and then the more copies you get, the card gets weaker quite a bit. And also it's quite easy to pick up one later on. Pick 3, I suppose. I like 1 relief captain in the deck. I choose it over the Seeker Squires here. I already have quite some 2-drops, and that's why I went for the captain. Pick 3, grabbing another Horse of Pontiff, and we will wheel most likely the Aristocrat again. Getting a nice 2-drop. Nothing else really in the pack. So here, Imperial Seal. I'm not sure how good it is in a Double Masters format. I mean, the Aristocrat, we're gonna wheel a couple of them anyways. I don't think Imperial Seal is too strong, but we have already quite a bit of 2-drops, and we have a Liliana. So with the Imperial Seal, we basically have 2 Lilianas almost always. If we draw it, we already have a 2-drop on the board. That's why I went for the Imperial Seal. Here we pick up our second copy of Severed Strands. We already have 1 Inquisition of Kozilek for the board. And here, finally, almost in the end, we got a nice gift, the Black-White Leash, which of course is very strong in our deck. Pick 9, getting a second copy of the Vampire Sovereign, and a third Severed Strands, not gonna play it. Wheeling Aristocrat, and unplayable for me. So that's the deck I ended up with. I was debating with the Spires if I should only run 4, but I'm really happy to run 4. I know it's sometimes ugly if you have the tap land instead of an untapped land, but it just makes sure you're basically never getting color screwed. And with so much 2-drops, couple of 1-drops, 3-drops, you usually can maneuver the tap lands around your curve. The upper right cards are the one I cut in the end. So I think Vampiric Rites, it would be fine in our deck, but we're not really leaving too much mana open. We're more about curving out, and I just leave it in the board for now and bring it in again in certain matchups. The 4th Cartel Aristocrat, I think, is not necessary. The card is very good in our deck, but as a multiple, it's not getting better. If you already have 2 on the board, the third one is almost only a bear, because you already have a way to sacrifice your other creatures if you want to. You already have a way to get in some damage if you sacrifice a creature or token for getting your Aristocrat some protection of certain colors, and that's why I chose the Seeker over the 4th Cartel Aristocrat. Battlefield Promotion, I very rarely play this card, more in red-white, where it's just attack and it's all about pumping. In hindsight, I wouldn't start with this card, probably bring in the Rights or the 4th Aristocrat, but you don't want to use these tricks defensively, because you don't want to get blown out, and it's just strong if you're just attacking and can use it offensive. But we're not always getting attacks in, we don't want to use it defensively. So I started with it, but after the first game or two I realized it's not fitting the deck that well, and I boarded it out. So yeah, that's for the draft. Let's head over to the gameplay.